January 7, 2025, News Report 1. Xinhua News reports, as of 7 p.m. on January 7, a 6.8 magnitude earthquake in Dingri County, Shigat City, Tibet, has caused 126 deaths and 188 injuries, with 28 of the injuries being severe. The earthquake led to the collapse of approximately 3,600 houses in Dingri County, and many residents are trapped under rubble. Preliminary estimates suggest that over 3,000 people remain trapped. Shigat City has a population of around 800,000, and Dingri County has a population of approximately 62,000. Within a 20-kilometer radius of the epicenter, about 6,900 people live. On-site footage shows the devastation in Dingri County, with most buildings damaged and streets filled with debris. In the freezing temperatures of -10 degrees Celsius, residents are seeking refuge outdoors to avoid possible aftershocks. After the earthquake, the Tibet Military District sent over 200 soldiers to Dingri County for rescue operations and dispatched 2 helicopters for aerial reconnaissance. However, some residents have questioned why helicopters were not used in time to transfer the injured. Additionally, more than 1,500 troops from the PLA are on standby but have not yet been deployed for rescue operations, raising concerns over the arrangements. On the same day, Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council expressed condolences to the Chinese government and reminded Taiwanese residents in the earthquake-stricken area to stay safe. News Report 2. The State Administration of Foreign Exchange released data on January 7 showing that by the end of December 2023, China's foreign exchange reserves totaled $3.2 trillion, a decrease of $63.5 billion, or 1.94% from the previous month. As of the end of September 2023, China's external debt stood at $2.51 trillion, a reduction of $30 billion compared to June 2023. On the other hand, the People's Bank of China released data on January 7 showing that by the end of 2023, China's gold reserves amounted to 73.29 million ounces, an increase of 330,000 ounces from the previous month. This marks the second consecutive month of gold purchases by the central bank on the international market. News Report 3. Bloomberg reports that on January 7, the Philippines Department of Information and Communications Technology stated that the Chinese hacker group APT-41 had carried out cyber attacks against the Philippine Presidential Palace, Coast Guard, Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, and the Department of Agriculture. The attacks led to the theft of sensitive military data and documents related to the South China Sea territorial disputes between China and the Philippines. These attacks mainly occurred between early 2023 and June 2024. The U.S. Department of Justice has identified APT-41 as a group affiliated with Chengdu 404 Network Technology Company, which provides services to Chinese police, military, and defense enterprises. News Report 4. According to Twitter, since January 7, the Weinan City Public Security Bureau in Shaanxi Province has imposed restrictions in Pucheng County to prevent local residents from traveling to the Pucheng Vocational Education Center to protest a previous incident. On January 2, a student from the vocational school was pushed out of a window by several senior students after a conflict in the dormitory, leading to the student's death. The incident has sparked dissatisfaction among residents in Pucheng County and surrounding areas, leading to clashes with the police and calls for the truth to be disclosed. Twitter videos show police using pepper spray to disperse the protesters, while angry residents armed with sticks confronted the police. One protester, while being subdued by the police, asked, "Police, do you still care about the people?" Additionally, the police have set up roadblocks 1 kilometer from the Pucheng Vocational Education Center, restricting residents' access and preventing students and villagers from leaving. Reports also indicate that the school has required students to sign agreements prohibiting them from leaving the school, speaking out, or organizing. The situation in Pucheng County is now in a quasi-martial law state, with a large police presence and strict control over people's movement. News Report 5. Gansu Daily's new media reported that recently, netizen Mr. Chi filed a real-name complaint accusing the state-owned enterprise China Railway Second Bureau of cutting corners during the construction of the Chengdu-Dazhou high-speed railway's Xiang section, from Fenghuang Bridge to Luohuapo. According to the complaint, the steel bars at the construction site were 40 to 50 centimeters shorter than the specifications in the blueprints, and other materials used in the project did not meet design standards. Mr. Qi expressed concern over the quality of the Xiang section, suggesting it might be a tofu dregs project, but it still passed inspection. The Chengdu-Dazhou high-speed railway, with a total length of 477 kilometers and an investment of 85.1 billion renminbi, connects Chengdu, Dazhou, and Chongqing's Wanzhou. The Xiang section, as part of the project, is facing significant quality issues, drawing public attention. In addition, media recalled that on June 21 last year, a road collapse occurred on Line 13 of the Chengdu Metro, constructed by the China Railway Second Bureau, causing a 12-meter deep sinkhole that threatened nearby residential buildings. This incident exposed problems in construction quality management, further intensifying public doubts about the quality of some state-owned enterprises' construction work. News Report 6. Hongkan.com reported that in 2024, China's catering industry is experiencing a large-scale wave of closures, with hot pot and beverage shops being the hardest hit. According to data, by November 2023, approximately 300,000 hot pot restaurants had closed, making the hot pot industry the most brutal sector in China's catering industry. During the same period, beverage shop closures also reached 200,000. Industry insiders have described beverage shops as a black hole for entrepreneurship, with many entrepreneurs investing large amounts of money only to eventually close their businesses. At the same time, the catering equipment recycling industry has become particularly active due to the large number of store closures. A recycler revealed that in the first 10 months of 2023, the amount of catering equipment he collected was 2.7 times that of the previous year, reflecting the depth of the industry's downturn. Faced with such a market environment, some catering industry professionals suggest that for stores that have long been unprofitable, it is wise to stop the losses early instead of blindly persisting, to avoid falling into even greater operational difficulties. News Report 7. According to Radio France International, on the evening of January 6, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen held a video call with Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng. During the call, Yellen expressed serious concerns over Chinese hackers infiltrating the U.S. Treasury Department. She mentioned that in early December 2023, Chinese hackers successfully gained access to the password of a U.S. Treasury Department cybersecurity contractor and infiltrated computers in the department's Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, stealing sensitive information related to U.S. sanctions on Chinese entities. Furthermore, Yellen reiterated to the Chinese side that the issue of overcapacity will continue to negatively impact U.S.-China relations. In response, Xinhua News reported that China expressed concern over U.S. trade restrictions and questioned the actual significance of the conversation, suggesting that it failed to address substantive issues. However, the Biden administration seemed to remain eager to engage in such discussions. News Report 8. According to the United Daily News, on January 7, the Taiwanese army began a 3-day live-fire drill in Hukou, Hsinchu, simulating an enemy using drones to attack critical targets in the Hsinchu area. For China, the Hsinchu area is of particular importance as it hosts key facilities such as the Hsinchu Science Park and Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC. During the exercise, Taiwan's military deployed advanced drone jamming guns and sent out tanks, armored vehicles, Apache helicopters, and Black Hawk helicopters to engage in fierce combat with the simulated enemy, ultimately successfully neutralizing the threat. Previously, ASML had stated that it had the capability to remotely disable TSMC's equipment. Even if the Chinese military were to capture TSMC's facilities, such an action would hold little practical significance for either side. News Report 9. According to Yonhap News, political turmoil in South Korea has intensified, with public opinion sharply divided between supporters and opponents of President Yoon Suk-yeol. Recently, the United States, as an ally of South Korea, took action. On January 6, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited South Korea and held talks with acting President Choi Sang-mok. During the meeting, Blinken reiterated his confidence in South Korea's democratic system and emphasized the United States' firm commitment to defending South Korea. Blinken also highly praised the trilateral cooperation between the U.S., South Korea, and Japan, expressing hopes to further strengthen and expand the outcomes of this cooperation. The U.S.-South Korea-Japan partnership was seen as a significant diplomatic achievement of President Yoon Suk-yeol. During Blinken's visit, several hundred of Yoon's supporters gathered outside the presidential residence, waving U.S. flags and calling for U.S. intervention. On the other hand, Yonhap News reported that the Seoul Western District Court on January 7 approved the extension of the arrest warrant for Yoon Suk-yeol, though the exact date of the extension was not disclosed. According to South Korean law, arrest warrants are typically valid for 1 week from the date of issuance. On December 31, 2023, the court had issued an arrest warrant for Yoon on charges of instigating insurrection and abuse of power, with the original warrant expiring on January 6. Due to the obstruction by the Presidential Security Service, an attempted arrest on January 3 was unsuccessful, providing a reasonable basis for the court to extend the warrant. News Report 10. Yonhap News reported that on January 7, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff held a routine press conference where they refuted North Korea's claim that it had successfully launched a new type of hypersonic medium and long-range ballistic missile on January 6. The South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff pointed out that North Korea's missile did not meet the standards of a hypersonic missile. This missile launch was North Korea's first of the year and the first since the victory of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. External analysts suggest that North Korea may have two goals in launching the missile at this time. First, North Korea may be testing South Korea's military response capabilities amid political turmoil within South Korea. Second, North Korea could be seeking to draw attention from the new U.S. administration, especially following Trump's election, attempting to make a statement and gain international attention. News Report 11. According to Asia Radio, in November 2023, 7 United Nations human rights experts sent a joint letter to the North Korean government, urging it to clarify the reports regarding China's deportation of North Korean defectors. The international community generally considers North Korean defectors to be political refugees who should be granted asylum in any country. However, the Chinese government has consistently refused to recognize them as refugees and continues to deport them back to North Korea. Defectors who are deported face severe consequences, including execution or torture. In October 2023, as North Korea's border reopened after the pandemic, China deported around 600 defectors back to North Korea. In August 2023, North Korea publicly tried the defectors deported by China in the city of Cheongjin, North Hamgyong Province. 2 women were sentenced to death and executed on the same day, while another 9 were sentenced to life imprisonment and remain missing. As a signatory to the UN Refugee Convention and the Convention Against Torture, China is prohibited from forcibly deporting individuals who face persecution or torture. Despite the statements from UN staff and human rights experts, the UN has not taken effective action or exerted substantial pressure on countries like China, leading critics to argue that the UN's role and influence on human rights issues are limited and lack real-world action. News Report 12. According to the Associated Press, a snowstorm continued to ravage the United States on January 6, resulting in 6 deaths, including 3 people killed in traffic accidents on icy roads. West Virginia and Maryland have declared a state of emergency, with schools closed, and the federal government offices and public schools in Washington, D.C., also shut down. Nationwide, 330,000 households were without power, and 2,000 flights were canceled. The next round of snowstorms is expected to affect the southern U.S. on January 8, including Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Local residents and transportation departments are preparing for the severe weather. News Report 13. ABC reported that the retail giant Costco recently announced a recall of its own brand, Kirkland Signature's cold and flu medication due to concerns over potential contamination. The recalled medication was sold at its major stores at the end of 2024. The affected product was sold from October 30th to November 30th, 2024. The batch number on the affected product packaging is P140082. Currently, the U.S. is experiencing an increase in flu cases, with over 5 million people infected since the beginning of winter, 2,700 deaths, and approximately 63,000 people hospitalized due to the flu. Despite the high demand for cold medication, this batch of Kirkland cold medicine has been recalled due to safety concerns. News Report 14. Reuters reported that the Louisiana Department of Health issued an announcement on January 6, reporting the first death in the U.S. from human infection with H5N1 avian influenza. The deceased was a 65-year-old man with underlying health issues who had contact with poultry and wild birds raised in his backyard. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, stated that 70 people in the U.S. have contracted avian influenza since April of the previous year. However, the CDC emphasized that the risk to the public remains very low, with little to no risk of human-to-human transmission. Still, the public is advised to avoid consuming untreated raw milk or eggs to reduce potential infection risks. News Report 15. Radio Free Asia reported that the Immigration Bureau in Thailand's Mae Sot County announced on January 7 that they had successfully located Chinese actor Wang Xing, who had been tricked into working in Myanmar's telecom fraud operations. Photos showed Wang Xing with his head shaved, appearing emaciated, and with injuries to his legs. Wang Xing traveled from Shanghai to Thailand on January 3 for a filming project. After arriving in Bangkok, he was picked up by a car to attend the opening ceremony but lost contact afterward. On January 5, Wang Xing's girlfriend posted a message on Weibo seeking help and calling for the search for the missing Wang Xing, which gained attention and support from several other celebrities. Wang Xing had originally seen an actor recruitment ad on WeChat Moments for filming in Thailand and tragically fell victim to the Southeast Asia telecom fraud network. News Report 16. According to the Hong Kong Mark 6 lottery, on the evening of January 7, two massive jackpot prizes were announced, each worth 128 million Hong Kong dollars. The winners each received 69 million Hong Kong dollars, close to 70 million Hong Kong dollars. This lottery prize broke the record for the Hong Kong Mark 6, attracting a large number of citizens to place bets, with the total bet amount exceeding 328 million Hong Kong dollars. On the day of the draw, the Stanley Street betting station in Central, Hong Kong, became the hottest betting spot. A 100-meter-long line formed at the station throughout the day on January 7, with many citizens even traveling from Kowloon specifically to buy tickets, showing the high level of interest in this large jackpot.